welcome to your Prince George's County Public School MSA Prep Show. I am Coach Davis here with...
Thank you, Coach Sun.
And what we're here to do today is just give you that little extra edge on some strategies that you can use in preparation for MSA. We know that you are better than basic, you are proficient and advanced. Yes. And if you use these strategies, it will help you to show what you know. We are here demonstrating some of the public release items that you can find on the mdk12.org website. These are your public release tasks. And if you notice, this one is for 4th grade, but there are sample items for each of the MSA testing grades, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So if you want to practice some, you can refer to these. So I am here to help demonstrate a 3rd grade task. So if you'll take a look, this is a 3rd grade task. These are in color on the website, but what we have done is enlarged it so that it will be better for you to see. And if you notice here, you can tell which grade it is because each of the tasks have the grade level up at the bottom. And you know it has some additional icons. This right here means no calculator allowed. On some of the items, the calculator is indeed allowed, so you have to pay attention whether it's calculator on or calculator off. And let's take a look at this question to see some of the strategies we might use to help solve it.
Excellent.
The first strategy is always read the question carefully and reread as necessary. So let's take a look and read this question together. And I've enlarged it so that we might be able to see it a little bit better. And this question says, this pictograph shows how students spend their recess time. So I was a little bit confused. Let me reread. That's always a good strategy to use.
Absolutely.
This pictograph shows how students spend their recess time. So we know here, read the labels of our diagram, recess, activity, and number of students. And also, if you're working with a pictograph, we want to make sure that we take a look at the key. So if I'm looking here, I see the activities are draw, some students play board games, play outside, and read a book. And the question is, Pedro must change the pictograph to show that a total of 8 students read books during recess. And on MSA, the good thing that they do, they put the question in a box so that it draws your attention to the actual question. So let's read the question that's being asked. How many pictures should Pedro add to the last row of his pictograph? And we have some answer choices, A, 2, B, 4, C, 6, and D, 8. So again, the most important strategy is read the question carefully. So I want to know, how many pictures should Pedro add to the last row of the pictograph? Well, right now it says Pedro must change the pictograph to show a total of 8 students read books at recess. So as I go to my chart, I am going to focus in on the activity that says read books. So I can actually ignore all of these other activities. I'm just focusing in on the reading books activity. The key says that each little person is worth 2 students. So I'm going to label this right here that this is 2. So this would be 4, and it says I want a total of 8 students. So I'm going to count by 2, 6, and 8. And it says how many should he add to the last row? So he needs to add some more little people here. So he has to add 2 people he must add 2 pictures in order to have the correct amount to show 8 students were at recess.
And I love a few things that you did here, Coach Davis. Some of the things you'll notice that she was doing was actually writing here in the test booklet. And remember that you're allowed to do that during MSA. So please make sure to do that. Work out problems in your test booklet. You're allowed to do that. You've got scratch paper, but you're also allowed to write in the book. And that way you can actually write on the graphs or work things out on there. And circling things in the question and underlining things in the question. They're extremely important strategies. strategies. And also notice that there are often answers there that could be there to trick you. So you need to be very careful to notice that maybe 2, 4, 6, 8 students reading books, or if you just noticed maybe for reading books that there were 2, 4 that were already there and that answer choice was there. So you need to be very careful to just be careful of those trick answers because they're very often there. And I love how you were just really being excellent about writing and solving the problem on that paper. So way to go, Coach Davis!
Thank you, Coach
Excellent.
Sun. And now here is Coach Sun with some additional strategies that you can use with an example of a 4th grade question.
Thank you. The 4th grade question that I'm actually going to work on is their BCR. And again, you can look in the corner to see
that there is a calculator.
That there is a calculator. So you can look, excuse me, did I say no calculator? I'm sorry. There is a calculator allowed for today's BCR. And one important thing to remember about a BCR is that anything that you write within the box is allowed to be scored, so that you have an entire box. And here I was trying to enlarge it so you can't see the whole BCR. But often, what you'll see is a whole space, and you can go all the way within the box, and anything that you write within that box is allowed to be scored, but do make sure that you stay within the box. So you can use this whole space down here for drawings, pictures, labels, anything you want. It's very important that you use that whole space. I just wanted to enlarge this here today so that it would be a little bit easier for you to see. So let's go ahead and get started with today's problem. Mr. Brown puts colored straws in a bag. He puts 2 red straws and 1 white straw in the bag. Step A. How many colored straws does Mr. Brown need to add to the bag so that red, white, and blue straws each have a 2/6 probability of being picked? So let's take a look at this fraction, 2/6, very important. What that tells me is that there will be 6 straws in all, the total number of possible outcomes, and that there would be 2 of each color, red, white, and blue. So let's take a look at how many he already has. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a picture right on this BCR to help me solve the problem. And then what that can also do, since it's within the box, is help also go towards my score when they're grading the BCR. So let's see what he already has. He already has 2 red straws, so I'm going to draw a picture here, and I'm just going to use the first letter of a color right now. So he has 2 red straws, so I'm going to do an R for red, and he's got 1 white straw. So there we go. That's what he already has. So I'm going to label that he already has those straws. And then I'm going to see how many more he needs. He needs 2 of each. He already has 2 red, so he just needs 1 more white straw. And he doesn't have any blue, so he's going to need 2 blue straws. There we go. And if we had a little more time, I would actually write out the words. So this is what he still needs right here. Okay? And I'm doing my very best because when they scan that during MSA, they actually scan that box. We want to make sure to absolutely stay in there. So let's double check. Then we would have 2/6 that are red, we would have 2/6 that are white, and we would have 2/6 that are blue. Okay? So there is my drawing to help me out. But what we have to remember to make sure to do is go back to step A and answer the question. They want to know how many he still needs, so he then still needs 1 white straw and 2 blue straws. So we're going to go back and we're going to write that in there. He still needs 1 white straw and 2 blue straws. Okay? All right. So step A is where we're answering the content question. Step B is then where we're explaining our answer. We're explaining and justifying and showing what we know about the problem. So let's look at step B. Explain why your answer is correct. Use what you know about probability in your explanation. Use words, numbers, and/or symbols in your explanation. A few important things here I want to show you. Explain what you know about probability in your explanation. That's very important. So what we're going to do here in a moment is explain what we know about probability. Sometimes they'll say use what you know about elapsed time. Tell what you know about elapsed time. They might say explain what you know about perimeter. Tell what you know about perimeter, because the people scoring this have never met you, and they don't know what's in your brain and all that content knowledge and everything you've been taught. So this is your chance to show them what you know. Tell them everything you've been taught. Show them how smart the students in Prince George's County are. Get it out there. Say, look at everything I know about this content area. So So that's the first thing. They're giving you that clue. They're saying, this is what we want you to tell us. We want to know here what you know about probability. The second thing they want you to do is explain your answer. How did you come up with that answer? And they're telling you that you can use words, numbers, and or symbols in your explanation as well. And we did part of that here already, okay? And what I'm also going to do is use words. I like to use a combination myself, and Coach Davis will give you some clues about that in a minute. So the first thing I want to do is talk about probability. And I know that probability is the chance that something will happen, is the chance that an event will happen, okay? Chance that an event will happen. Okay? Now I want to explain my answer. So if each color will have a 2/6 probability of being pulled, trying to write fast here, each color needs 2 straws out of 6 total straws. Okay? Since he already has 2 red straws, he only needs 1 more white, since he already had 1, right? Sorry, my handwriting isn't the best. And 2 blue straws. Now notice I'm running out of lines, but it doesn't matter as long as we are in the box. Okay? Now, one other thing I want to show is what I know about a fraction with your numerator denominator. I know when we're talking about a fraction in probability that your numerator shows the favorable outcomes and your denominator shows the number of possible outcomes. So I'm going to show that here as well. I'm just trying to show everything that I know about probability and get it out here. So I'm going to show here that I'm going to label this. This is my numerator, and this here is my denominator. So denominator. Okay, I want to make sure to spell that right. Okay, so here was my goal. 2 things. 1 was to show what I know about probability, and 2 was to prove my answer here in step A.
And we could also put 2, 6 right next to it so that we know which one is which.
Excellent.
And all of that will line up.
Excellent idea. That shows I know my numerator, my denominator. I've got my drawing here. I've also got words to support my drawing. Any other suggestions for BCRs, Coach Davis?
That was well done.
Thank
and remember,
you.
because it says use words, numbers, and or symbols in your explanation, that you can use a combination. So if you happen to be a student who likes to draw pictures, and a picture is an excellent way to start solving your problem, please do that. And make sure it's labeled. If you like to write sentences, you can write sentences to support. So, but don't get worried if you're not a sentence person. Your pictures, your numbers, and your symbols can show your understanding.
Just don't forget, label those pictures. Extremely important.
Yes. Okay, and so now I am going to show a 4th grade problem as well, and this one is a selected response. And notice here on this particular selected response, it is 4th grade, and I am allowed again to use a calculator. Now remember, you want to use the calculator to your advantage. If it's something that you understand without a calculator, or a calculator does not help you, then please do not waste your time playing on the calculator. Remember, your MSA is a time test, so make sure you use your time wisely. So keep track of your time and don't spend too much time on any one question. So again, the strategy was to read the question carefully, circle any important details or information that will help you to solve the question, and then show what you know. And notice that on this question, there's lots of space at the bottom. And so this is your workspace, so you don't have to use scratch paper, a separate set. So remember, as Coach Sun said earlier, write directly in the book.
Absolutely.
So I too have enlarged so that perhaps you can see this question better. And so again, let's read carefully. And Coach Sun has a calculator
Yes, I do.
for us to use if we need to do that. Okay, Amos buys 5 packs of 18 balloons. Crystal buys 3 packs of 24 balloons. Which inequality shows the relationship between the number of balloons Amos buys and the number of balloon Crystal buys? So again, when I'm reading my question, I'm going to read through one time just to kind of understand what's going on. I'm going to read through a second time to circle any important information that's going to help me to actually solve this problem. So I'm going to read one more time. Starting with the question, and remember they put it in a box for us so we can really focus in. So it says, which inequality shows the relationship between the number of balloons Amos buys, so that means Amos has to come first, and the number of balloons Crystal buys. So let me see, here's Amos up here and here's Crystal. So it says Amos buys 5 packs of 18 balloons. So that means I have 5 packs with 18 in each pack. That reminds me of a multiplication problem because I'm having 18 repeated 5 times. So I'm going to write that as 5 times 18. And if I go over here to Crystal, it says Crystal buys 3 packs with 24. And again, that reminds me of multiplication. So I'm going to write 3 times the number that she's buying over and over again, 24. So now let me look at my problem. Oh, they have it set up just like that. So the thing that I need to figure out is whether 5 times 18 is less than, greater than, or equal to 3 times 24. And since I have a calculator, I could actually multiply it out. So I would multiply like this, 24 times 3. But since we have, it is a calculator, I am going to actually use the calculator for this particular problem, perhaps. So enter 18 times 5 and press my equal or my enter, and I see that that total is 96. And so now I'm going to multiply 24 times 3, and I see that that total is 72. Okay, so now one strategy that I like to use that helps me remember my less than and greater than sign, because sometimes I get confused which way the less than and greater than sign goes. So I know that 90 is bigger than 20. So I'm going to give 2 dots to my larger number and 1 dot to my smaller number, and I am simply going to connect the dots. And that will give me my correct symbol. So if I'm looking here at these, I can eliminate the ones that do not have the symbol going in the correct direction. So I need my symbol to go 90 is greater than 72. So this says it's less than, so I can eliminate that. This says it's less than, so I'm left with 2 choices. And I know that this was talking about a repeated a repeated addition problem, which meant multiplication. So I see that I have my multiplication symbol here. So, Coach Sun, I do believe we have found a solution for this problem.
And what I was actually going to suggest earlier was when you were talking about the 2 multiplications, what I actually was going to do was I was going to go back and I was going to cross out C and D right away, because those were both 2 addition problems, and I knew that it couldn't be C or D, so I knew that we were going to be looking at either A or B, because those were both multiplication. And one thing that I hope everyone notices that Coach Davis is doing is she is eliminating answers to the right side, because we want to be very careful not to do it over the answer choices, which is very important because computers scan these, and so we don't want to have by mistake anything over any of the letters. So if you notice, she's eliminating them to the right side, and that's a very good strategy. Excellent job, Coach Davis.
Thank you, Coach Sun.
And to finish off today's MSA Prep, we've got one more problem, which is actually a 5th grade question. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this 5th grade question. And if you'll notice, this is in the no calculator section. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to move that calculator away, and let's go ahead and take a look at this 5th grade question together. It says Tully prepared 2 candy recipes. Yummy. The first recipe used 3 3/4 cups of sugar. The second recipe used 2 2/3 cups of sugar. So we know that we're looking at 2 mixed numbers. The question is, what are we going to do with those 2 mixed numbers? Which operation are we going to use? how much sugar did Tully use to make both recipes? And that's the important part. How much did Tully use to make both recipes? That lets me know that we are combining those two mixed numbers, which means what we are going to do is to add them. So when I go back and I look at my two mixed numbers, I see that they do have two different denominators. So we're going to have to go back and we're going to need to find common denominators, because anytime that we are adding or comparing or subtracting mixed numbers or fractions, we must have those common denominators so that we can make sure to be looking at the same, talking about same size pieces. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that right in the test booklet.
Yes.
That way we know we are working things out. I cannot, and I've been doing math a long time, and Coach Davis has as well, there's no way that I could find a solution to this without working it out. So we're going to go ahead, and I like to do these writing them vertically, so we could write the conversions next to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write these out right here on the page, and we're going to be adding these mixed numbers. But I want to go ahead and I am going to write an equal sign, because we are going to find equivalent fractions to these with a common denominator. Knowing that 4 and 3 are my denominators, I want to find my least common multiple. For 4 and 3, my least common multiple is 12. So I'm going to rewrite them with the denominator of 12. And I'm also going to rewrite the whole number, because I want to make sure not to forget that whole number.
Yes.
So I'm going to rewrite that as well. Extremely important, okay? So I want to think about, how did I get from 3 to 12? I multiplied by 4. And whatever I do to my denominator, I also want to do to my numerator. So if 3 times 4 equals 12, 2 times 4 equals 8. So I'm going to write that as my numerator. How did I get from 4 to 12? I multiplied by 3. So I'm going to do the same thing to my numerator. 3 times 3 equals 9. Now that my denominators are the same, we are ready to add it up. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write my denominator down here, because we never, ever add or subtract our denominator. We can go ahead now and add our numerator. 9 plus 8 equals 17. We're going to come back and talk about that in a minute. And we can add our whole numbers. 3 plus 2 equals 5. So our final answer is 5 and 17/12. However, you will notice that 17/12 is an improper fraction. So first of all, you'll notice that that isn't an answer option here. But we also know that we need to change that improper fraction to a mixed number. So what we're going to do is we are now going to show that as 5 plus, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to convert 17/12 into a mixed number. So we see how many times 12 can go into 17. That's 1 time with 5 left over, so that becomes our numerator, and our denominator stays the same. 5 plus 1 equals 6, and our 5/12 stays the same, which shows that our answer is C.
Very good.
How does that look?
It looks very good. And when we noticed here that we had 17/12, we could have thought, I can go ahead and eliminate the answers that have 5, because this one is going to be greater than 5, because we had that improper fraction.
Yeah, I have to admit, it was quite nice of them on this task that they did show that the denominators here is 12. They won't always do that. They might show some other denominators there, but it was quite nice of them that they gave us that clue there. So here, hopefully that helped you out as well, and hopefully today's MSA Prep helped you out as well. We hope that you do various practice, not only looking on MDK 12 for those public release tasks, but just going through all the different things you've learned throughout the year, practicing your math facts, Challenge 24. There's so many things you can do to get ready, and we know that you will do a fabulous job and make all of us proud. My name is Coach Sun here.
I am Coach Davis, and we know that you are better than basic. You are proficient and advanced, so you can show what you know on your MSA.
Thank you for joining us today.